Okay, ABBA, hugely popular and successful in the 1970s, but at the time also a band you could definitely call uncool. With punk and new wave dominating the scene, it just wasn't considered cool to like ABBA back then. Some people may still see them as a guilty pleasure. But fast forward a few decades, and any true fan of great pop music has to admit, the songs by this Swedish foursome are incredibly strong and timeless. ABBA released a total of 9 albums, and since we all love a good ranking list, I went ahead and ranked them for you. Let's dive in, or låt oss dyka in, as the Swedes would say. Hello, and welcome to a new episode of We're Only in It for the Music, a brand new YouTube series that takes you on a musical journey through videos about pop, rock, jazz, blues, soul, and funk. In other words, from ABBA to Zappa and everything in between. If you're enjoying this series, don't forget to click like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you'll always be the first to know when a new episode drops. But enough of that. Never mind the bollocks, we're only in it for the music. As mentioned before, this channel covers everything from ABBA to Zappa, and everything in between. So, we're kicking off the album ranking series with the Swedish supergroup themselves, ABBA. ABBA released 9 studio albums in total. In this episode, we're focusing only on their studio output. Live albums, compilations, and other extras won't be included in this ranking. When rating each album, I'm sticking to the official track listing, not the extended versions you might find on streaming platforms with bonus singles thrown in. Yes, gimme some gimme 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 while listening to Voulez-Vous. But even if an album is missing some massive hits, we're sticking to the original version of the track list. Each individual song gets a rating, but I'm also looking at the overall sound, production, the sequencing of the album, and the cover art or sleeve. A little something I like to call the triple S factor. Enough with the housekeeping, let's do this! Or as they'd say in Sweden, låt oss göra det här. At the bottom of the list, at number 9,
Number 9.
we find the debut album Ring Ring from 1973. Originally released under the band name Björn and Benny, Agnetha and Frida. Yeah, BBAF. Didn't exactly roll off the tongue. The name was later changed to ABBA on reissues. The album actually has 2 different cover designs, depending on the Swedish or international release. As is often the case with debut albums, the group was still finding their sound. Aside from Disillusion and Rock and Roll Band, most of the songs feel a bit bland, and there aren't many hints yet of the pop phenomenon ABBA would soon become. But as we all know, that was going to change big time. In 8th place, we find ABBA's self-titled album from 1975. With Mamma Mia and SOS, this third ABBA record contains 2 undeniable classics. In addition, Hey Hey Helen and Man in the Middle stand out from the rest of the track list, which overall sounds a bit weaker. ABBA was definitely heading in the right direction with this album, but they weren't quite there yet in 1975. ABBA's big breakthrough came during the Eurovision Song Contest, where they introduced the rest of the world, or at least Europe, to Waterloo, the title track from their 1974 album. For many, the images from that TV performance are burned into memory. Agnetha was wearing something blue. Not surprisingly, the title track is also the clear highlight of the album, which, by the way, was originally released under the name Björn and Benny, Agnetha and Frida, once again. The record label made the smart decision to include both the Swedish and English versions of Waterloo on the album, effectively bookending this record. 40 years after their breakup, ABBA returned out of nowhere in 2021 with their 9th album, Voyage. The quality of the album really makes you wonder why it took them so long to get back into the studio together. The record opens in almost cinematic fashion with I Still Have Faith in You. We're hearing an older, wiser, more reflective ABBA than we did 40 years ago, although the album does lean heavily on ballads and slower songs. In my opinion, the cover art is the most beautiful ABBA has ever used to wrap an album. Voyage stands, at least for now, as a worthy final chapter in a small but powerful discography. Who knows what ABBA still has in store for us when it comes to future studio material? But if a 10th album ever does arrive, I hereby promise to give it a proper review. And of course, a place in this ranking. In 5th place, we have the iconic helicopter cover of Arrival, released in 1976. By this point, ABBA had, quite literally and figuratively, arrived, scoring massive hits with Dancing Queen, Knowing Me, Knowing You, and Money, Money, Money. For the first time, we hear an album that's strong across almost the entire board. Why Did It Have to Be Me doesn't quite reach the same level, but aside from that, we're definitely in for the ride. Or better yet, in for the flight. In 1979, Voulez-Vous was released into the world. The disco era was still in full swing, and ABBA filled dance floors everywhere with the infectious title track. If Dancing Queen, from 1976, is the ultimate dance floor classic, then Voulez-Vous definitely deserves a strong second place. Does Your Mother Know showcases the glam rock influences of the early 70s, and it's always a treat when ABBA switches things up from polished pop and disco to a more dynamic, rock-driven sound. Despite those up-tempo bangers, this album also leans heavily on ballads like I Have a Dream and Chiquitita, making the upbeat tracks a welcome change of pace. As Good as New and Lovers, Live a Little Longer are two more standout tracks from a very strong album. By the late 70s, ABBA had become a full-blown pop phenomenon, and Voulez-Vous is clear proof of that. Voulez-Vous, aha! In 3rd place, we have Super Trooper from 1980. ABBA entered the new decade on a high note with this hit-packed album featuring The Winner Takes It All, Happy New Year, and the iconic title track. The sound ABBA had still been searching for on their debut is now fully realized. A polished blend of pop and disco at its finest. An honorable mention goes to Lay All Your Love on Me, a standout track that perfectly captures the group's ability to balance upbeat, danceable songs with more introspective, slower material. And of course, every December 31st, Happy New Year returns to remind us, in the most bittersweet way, of time passing and new beginnings. Personally, I always feel like blasting New Year's Day by U2 on New Year's Eve. But my friend insists we play Happy New Year by ABBA when we raise a glass at midnight. And the funny thing is, she's not even an ABBA fan. For over 4 decades, The Visitors from 1981 stood as the final chapter in ABBA's discography, a closing statement that, by ABBA standards, felt remarkably dark in tone. Of course, melancholy had shown up before, and the introspective nature of the two female voices was never far away. But here, that mood becomes the dominant force. The haunting title track and the beautiful Soldiers stand out on an album that, aside from One of Us, didn't produce many singles, or at least not major hits. Much like the emotional chaos that consumed Fleetwood Mac during their Rumors era, the romantic relationships within ABBA had also started to fall apart. The two couples who once formed the heart of the group were no longer together, and the breakdown of those marriages left a clear mark on the music. The production is heavier, with an almost atmospheric quality that pulls you into the album like a slow, emotional undertow. Most people still associate ABBA with cheerful hits and catchy choruses, which makes The Visitors something of an odd one out, perhaps even a bit underrated, perhaps a bit unsettling. But one thing's for sure, The Visitors is no unwelcome guest. And taking the #1 spot in this ABBA album ranking, ABBA, the album, released in 1977. Judging by the title alone, the Swedish group clearly felt this was going to be something special. And they weren't wrong. In the very year punk was making waves, ABBA delivered a beautifully crafted record featuring what might just be the most stunning song in their entire catalog. Eagle.
And I hate the fucking Eagles, man.
No, no, no!
Eagle!
Eagle. The steamy synths, the pan flute, which we'd later hear again in songs like Sledgehammer by Peter Gabriel or Ride Across the River by Dire Straits, as discussed in the very first episode of this series, and the soaring guitar solos all make this an absolute gem that immediately puts the album on the map. Side A of the record is strong across the board, featuring tracks like Take a Chance on Me and The Name of the Game. And on Side B, There's even room for a full-blown suite, or rather, a mini musical. The Girl with the Golden Hair, 3 scenes from a mini musical. This song cycle kicks off with Thank You for the Music, yet another ABBA classic, and marks the beginning of a 3-part suite that shows ABBA wasn't afraid to aim high with their artistic ambitions. It's understandable that many people associate ABBA mainly with their greatest hits and tend to reach for a compilation album. But if there's one full-length record by these Swedish pop icons you should listen to from start to finish, it's ABBA, the album, a brilliant collection of songs that truly shows what they were capable of. Thank you for the music, Björn, Benny, Frida, and Agnetha. Tack för musiken, ABBA! And that wraps up all 9 ABBA albums. Once the band found its stride, ABBA consistently delivered quality. No matter which album you choose, each one offers at least a handful of unforgettable pop songs. Many of their biggest hits were actually released as non-album singles, and in some cases, those could have boosted an album's overall score even more. It's no surprise that, even after all these years, ABBA might not be considered the coolest band in the music landscape, but they're rightfully celebrated for their timeless classics. ABBA has officially graduated from guilty pleasure to pop royalty. Their legacy is more than secure, and we see it reflected in the band's unwavering popularity to this day. Personally, I've never really understood why they only perform as holograms, especially since all 4 members are still alive and in good health. It certainly didn't hurt ticket sales, but I'm sure many fans would give anything to see the 4 Swedish icons together on stage one last time. A special shout-out or honorable mention goes to Frida's 1982 solo album, Something's Going On, produced and, yes, drummed by none other than Phil Collins. So, what's your favorite ABBA album? How would you rank them? Leave a comment and check out all the music from this series in the Spotify playlist linked below. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time. And in the meantime, drop the needle, press play, and remember, we're only in it for the music.